Hello, my name is Bob Harkins. I'm the Associate Vice President for Campus Safety and Security for the University of Texas at Austin. I want to thank each of you for taking time today to view these presentations. For the last 2 years, myself and other members of the Campus Safety and Security community have visited throughout the campus to give presentations on our system here at the University of Texas. This presentation will serve as kind of a capsule cast of an overview of that system. We have divided it up into 4 divisions. The first deals with the history of campus violence. The second deals with the organization, structure, plans, and planning that have gone into the University of Texas at Austin emergency management system. The third element is the various types of communications that we use during emergencies. And the fourth element is that outlining the individual responsibilities that we all have at the University of Texas. Let's go ahead and get started with the history of campus violence.
The history of campus violence begins for the University of Texas on August 1st, 1966, when Charles Whitman, a graduate student in the School of Architecture, killed his wife, killed his mother, and then ascended the 307-foot tower and began a 96-minute shooting rampage on the students and the citizens of Austin.
This is a KLRN News Bulletin. A sniper with a high-powered rifle has taken up a position on the observation deck of the tower on the campus of the University of Texas. He is firing at persons within his range. All Austin area residents are warned to stay away from the University of Texas campus area.
This resulted in a total of 17 people being killed, 30 people being wounded on that tragic day. But even in the worst of tragedies, good can come out of that. From that situation, the decision was made to arm the police at the University of Texas and across many college campuses in the nation. The concept of SWAT teams was evolved and became kind of a standard practice for police in these types of situations. And another one that's not thought of often is kind of the first time that EMS trauma centers were really called into a need at Brackenridge Hospital. There was identified the need for the trauma center, and trauma centers kind of began from that point forward. We move forward to April 1999, when in Colorado at Columbine High School, Eric Harris and Dean Klebold came to school that day on 20 April and began shooting in their classrooms and in the hallways of that high school. The result was 13 killed. There were 24 wounded. And the significant event that comes out of that was watching police respond to that event. We had police officers that arrived on scene, and they did the normal police practice of sealing off the area and waiting on SWAT teams to arrive. In the meantime, shooting was taking place inside the facility. Out of that tragedy came the concept of alert training and the training of police officers, each and every police officer, to form up into teams to go in to take out somebody who is an active shooter or somebody who is doing great damage to a community. We move forward to April 2007, when Cho came to Virginia Tech that day to do violence to the students at Virginia Tech University. Cho killed 2 students in a residence hall. While the campus police and everybody descended on that residence hall, he went to a classroom building, chained the doors, and began killing people in classrooms. He ended up killing 30 people in those classrooms, in the 4 classrooms, and wounding an additional 17 before he was actually killed by the officers that reacted to that situation. What came out of Virginia Tech as a big lesson for everybody was the 2 hours between the initial shootings in the residence hall and the shootings in the classroom building. The communications that did not take place to the campus have become an area that many people have looked at as a great deficiency, that university's ability to react to that situation. As we move forward, we come forward to September 28, 2010, University of Texas again, when on this day Colton Tooley decided that he would come to campus to take his own life. You See here on the bus, you see him moving on and sitting down. You can see the protrusion out of his backpack. That's his AK-47. He departs on Guadalupe and moves up to the campus. And on this slide, you'll see where there are some X's where he began firing in the air. He was as close to you as the person sitting next to you when he decided to open fire with his AK-47. He expended 11 rounds outside, had over 30 rounds on his possession. When he heard the siren go off on campus and heard police sirens responding, he pulled a ski mask over his face, went into the Perry Castanedas Library, went to the 6th floor, and took his own life. We were lucky that day. Sad that we lost a student from the University of Texas, but very lucky that he decided that he was not going to kill others and only kill himself. He came to campus to commit suicide, and then that's what he did. When we responded to the events on September 28th, we used a variety of means of communications. Within 7 minutes, we had 54,000 text messages distributed to the campus. We used sirens, the text messages that I had indicated. We used email. We used the World Wide Web. We used pagers, TVs, social media, radios, and public media to get the message out to the campus. We had cross-training with the Austin Police Department. As a matter of fact, the first 2 teams that went into the library to eliminate the threat were combined teams between Austin Police Department and the University of Texas Police Department. Our ability to do this was based on our cross-training that we had done earlier. So September 28th, when you look back from August of '66 to September 28, 2010, a lot has happened and a lot of things have been done on this campus. Let me now explain to you how we got to where we are. So the big question is, how did we, the University of Texas, get there? We're going to look next at the structure and the programs that we have here at the University of Texas.
If you go back to September 11, 2001, we all can remember the terror and anguish that this nation went through as we reacted to the events of that day. 9/11 was a significant date for this nation, but also for the campus as we began to examine what we were doing and how we would respond to a terrorist or some type of active shooting incident on campus.
Dr. Pat Clubb, the Vice President for University Operations, formed up the Campus Safety and Security Committee in its infancy and began to give it some instructions and guidance. And finally, in 2005, the decision was made by Dr. Clubb to form the Office of the Associate Vice President for Campus Safety and Security. That is the position that I hold at this point in time. I oversee the Director of Emergency Preparedness, the Chief of Police, the Director of Parking and Transportation, the University Fire Marshal, and the Director of Environmental Health and Safety. The mission of the Office of the Associate Vice President for Campus Safety and Security is to ensure the safety, welfare, and security of all people at the University of Texas. The 5 values of trust, leadership, communications, teamwork, and excellence form the bedrock on which the office has been developed. There are 5 goals that the University of Texas Office for Campus Safety and Security has, focusing on the development of programs, the establishment of communications, finding best practices and implementing them from across the nation, being a leader and developing the leadership across campus to react to situations and to promote safety awareness. Most universities are organized in silo-type institutions where there's not a lot of vertical communications. Most of the communications is linear. A university like the University of Texas is typical of that type of example. The Campus Safety and Security Committee you see depicted on this slide is our attempt to begin to break down those silos when it comes to emergencies on campus. We meet monthly, and I chair that, and we have all the discussions. We have the discussions with all the key players when it comes to any safety and security issue on campus. The president is the ultimate decision maker in any campus emergency that we might have. he has with him a core crisis management team that forms the nucleus for his senior leadership to be able to make decisions. You see depicted on this slide the current members of the core crisis management team for the University of Texas. We also have spent time developing assessment teams, because in order to give the president the information that he needs to make decisions, somebody's got to be able to make a decision and make an analysis in terms of what's going on, and then be able to provide some leadership options. Our core campus assessment teams are responsible for identifying, assessing, and managing incidents, and then to determine appropriate actions. We conduct investigations with these teams as appropriate, and then we develop and implement an action plan, and then finally do the follow-up necessary to make certain that all things are covered. The Dean of Students has developed the Critical Incident Response Team that you see depicted on this slide. This diverse group pulls together to look at the impact on students and the impact on student events on campus whenever there's an incident. There are two teams that look at individuals that may be having difficulty. The first of which you see on this slide is the Behavior Assessment Team, or as we call it, the BAT team. The BAT team focuses on students that are in crisis or in trouble or having difficulty, to try and develop a plan once again to make certain that the student can have success as well as the university. If it's a staff member or a faculty member, the Threat Assessment Team, or the TAT team, accomplishes the same functions as the BAT team, only dealing strictly with staff and faculty here on campus. Both of these teams' job are to make assessments and to provide options and plans to the senior leadership of the university in terms of how to resolve any issues that might be there. As I mentioned earlier, there are many outgrowths of what happened during the tragic incident at Virginia Tech. Foremost in these is communications, and I discussed a little bit about how we send out for our incident 54,000 text messages in 7 minutes. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on. But the main program that came out of the tragedy at Virginia Tech for the University of Texas was the establishment of the Behavior Concerns Advice Line. This is a phone line that goes directly into the Dean of Students office, and the Dean of Students will sort out whether or not it's a staff problem, a faculty problem, or a student problem, and kind of what resources we can put behind that problem to be able to resolve it. If it's an emergency that looks like it's impending danger or some type of violence, it goes directly to the University of Texas Police Department, and we respond to that. We have multiple hundreds of calls annually on this line, and it has proven to be, in the words of the Chief of Police, the best insurance to campus safety is BCAL. The University of Texas Police Department focuses on community policing. By community policing, we mean outreaching to the community and being engaged with all of the individuals on campus to ensure the safety and security of the campus. We spend a lot of time with our police officers communicating policy across the campus to all groups. We do crime prevention surveys where we can look at areas to see if we can do things to kind of prevent any property crimes. There are also, if you go to the University of Texas website, you noted up here on this slide, there are two videos, one called Flashpoint and one called When Lightning Strikes. These videos are excellent videos, about 20 minutes long, and if you have a University of Texas EID, you can go to the website listed on the slide and pull down those videos and spend 20 minutes looking at them to kind of see what are the indications that an individual exhibits before they crack, if you will, or before they flash. And then the When Lightning Strikes is what to do if you're caught in an active shooting situation within your facility. Both of which are excellent videos that will help you and the people that you are with know what to do in the event of an emergency. The RAD class listed on the slide is a class that's very popular to teach people, particularly females, self-defense against people that might try and do them harm. Would ask each of you also to sign up for Campus Watch, and the address is listed here on the side. And that will tell you kind of what's happening each day on campus in terms of any campus activities that involve the police department. Social media is something that all of us have to figure out and come to a better grasp in terms of how to deal with that form of media during an emergency and during an event. I'll talk a little bit more about it a little bit later on during the communications portion. But suffice it to say that on September 27th, the day before the shooting on campus, UTPD had 400 plus friends on their Facebook account. On the 29th, they had over 12,000. We communicated and used social media to communicate to the campus and to the community what was going on in this campus on the September 28th. There's also some safety protocols, i.e. posters that you can download from the University of Texas Police Department that talk about what to do in the event of an active shooter in your facility. Backing up all of us on campus is the Counseling and Mental Health Center. It is there to service students and to provide individual and group counseling, psychiatric services, obviously 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year phone counseling if needed, to assist in medical withdrawals or the adjustment in classes if there are large periods of absence because of illness. It's a place where you can go to get help with Voices Against Violence that try and provide counseling and group sessions for people that have had violence occur in their life. If a student has a drug or an alcohol problem, they can get counseling through the center. There are classes on managing stress and how to de-stress yourself a little bit, particularly as it gets towards finals time or some of the other major times on campus. And to me, the program that I'm really like to emphasize is a program called Be That One. Be That One asks each of us to reach out to any students that we see that are in stress and make certain they don't do something to hurt themselves. So if you want to know how to help your friends, go look at Be That One, remember BCAL. Those two programs will help us all be the watchers of our brothers and our sisters out there as we're trying to take care of each other here at the University of Texas. For staff and faculty, the Employee Assistance Program also is a great tool to be able to help people at work that are having difficulty. HealthPoint provides the opportunity for people on campus to understand how to live a healthier life and how to take better care of their body. You can see the website there that would kind of lead you towards that. The Employee Assistance Program itself provides individual counseling, manager counseling, grief counseling. And most people don't think about grief counseling. But if there's been a death or a tragic event in an office, we need to provide time for people to grieve. And if you contact the Employee Assistance Program, they have grief counselors that can come help you and your department work through that tragic situation. They also work on workplace safety and crisis management, as well as the work-life balancing and how do you balance that between your home life and the University of Texas. We haven't stopped there in terms of programs that we've got in place on campus. Have an Exit strategy is a strategy that was formulated in conjunction with the University of Texas and the State Fire Marshal's Office. It came out of the 2003 Rhode Island nightclub fire, where over 100 people died because they all tried to get out the same entrance they came in when there were other exits that were available. What this program asks you to do is no matter where you go, wherever you work, at home, and wherever you play, make certain that you see and find a way to get out of a facility in the event of an emergency. Most recently, think about the shooting in Colorado at a movie theater. And when you go to a movie theater, take a look and find out where those exits are. When you go to a club downtown, take a look and find out where those exits are. In the room you're sitting in right now, or in a classroom, where are the exits? How can you get out of that facility in the event of an emergency? The program that has done an awful lot to the campus and came out of, the need came out of the September 28th incident on the University of Texas campus is a building manager program. We have now identified 165 buildings in which we have people living and working in on campus. We have 165 building managers that are designated by a senior official and have the responsibility for coordinating security, emergency planning, renovation and repairs, special projects and events, and communications. Contact your building manager. Get to know your building manager, because that person is building your department evacuation plans and your department of communication plans. Very critical program for everybody to know and understand. So who is your building manager? The next section we're looking at is the section that I call plans and planning. You see on this slide the 5 plans that we've developed to talk about how we do emergencies here at the University of Texas. You also see a link on the slide where you can go and download these plans from the University of Texas website and be able to have the plans available in your office and at your desk. It deals with our overall emergency plan, our infectious disease, our severe weather, our building management and restricted access plan, as well as business continuity. At the University of Texas, we identified 46 incidents that we were concerned about and wanted to include in our plan. We evaluated these incidents, whether or not the probability was low, medium, or high for probability of occurrence, and also the impact on health and safety and the impact on property and environment. We reevaluate these annually and make certain that we still have the right incidents as well as the right probability evaluations. You'll see this slide plus the next slide that show those for you. So what's in the University of Texas Emergency Plan? It becomes the university's strategic operational plan. It talks about all of our levels of emergencies, responses, and readiness conditions. It lays out the procedures for the establishment of command, control, and communications. It is based on the National Incident Management System, or as we like to call it, NIMS. It includes incident command, interagency cooperation, and public information. It contains a lot of the policies and procedure which apply regardless of the type of the emergency. We like to think of it as all hazards and flexible, but the biggest thing to remember that the university's emergency management plan does not replace departments' responsibilities to develop their own emergency plans and emergency actions. I mentioned at Virginia Tech, one of the major lessons learned was the need and the requirement to communicate with the campus and communicate very rapidly. This next section, I'll try and lay out for you how we communicated and how we communicate now on the campus at the University of Texas at Austin. We rely a lot on pagers on campus as perhaps being the most reliable means of communication that we have electronically. We have all building managers with pagers. We have all first responders with pagers. And we even have pagers for a lot of the senior leadership. I know. When you look at the pager and the young students look at the pagers, they look at you like you're the oldest guy in the world at technology speaking. But we found that the pagers have the capability to get through even when cell phones fail, etc. So you'll find all of our first responders, which are in the A category, carry their pagers 24/7. Our B category, is listed on the slide, really kind of consume most of the building managers. When they're here at work, they have the pager at their desk, and if when need be, we can get messages inside the building to tell them that there's an emergency. The C category is focused on our senior leadership. We can get to the senior leadership through the paging system, and we ask them to activate it when there's an emergency going on campus. I mentioned earlier that during the shooting on our campus on September 28th that we sent out 54,000 text messages in 7 minutes. There's a requirement for all students when they register on the University of Texas campus to either provide emergency information or to specifically opt out and not desire text messaging. If you opt in to text messaging, or if you sign up for text messaging, you will receive messages when there's a threat to campus. You also receive messages once a month on the first of the month when we test the siren system, as we verify that our text messaging system is working. Currently, we have about 65,000 registered for the text messaging system at the University of Texas. We all know that we have university email. We see a lot of it every day. If you notice on this slide, there's a red category that says urgent. When we have an emergency on campus, we'll send things urgent to you. It'll be identified as urgent safety information, but it still takes us about 45 minutes to chug through 70,000 emails, counting staff, faculty, students. So it takes time to get information out. The nice thing about email is we can provide more information than we can on text messaging or on pagers. We have a variety of websites. You see here is the Campus Safety and Security website. We'll provide links on that site, and we'll provide information on that site of emergencies that are going on campus, or if you have questions, go to that site and it will get you information. On the front page of the University of Texas site, if you go down to the bottom, it talks about emergency information. If you click that on the front page of the University of Texas homepage, it will take you to this page. This page tells you that today everything is okay on this campus. There's no emergencies going on. If there were an emergency, this page would come down and an emergency page with emergency information would go up. That is where we're going to direct a lot of people when we start getting an emergency on this campus, because we can ask you to go look and pull information rather than trying to provide it through multiple means. You may by this time be familiar with our outdoor warning system, our siren system. We put it in about 3 months before Virginia Tech, because my major concern was how do we get people off the streets in the event of a hurricane, a tornado, or some type of other weather event. We kind of made comments that if we ever had another shooting incident like the Whitman shooting in '66, we could certainly use it for that. Little did we know that in 2010 we would need to have that system available to broadcast an emergency shooting going on campus. This slide shows you the UTPD website. You can see there where safety videos, Campus Watch, and the protocols and Facebook and the social media are all listed. All you have to do is go click on those and you'll be able to get some of the information that we talked about a little bit earlier. On approximately 2,000 computers across campus, we have a system called AtHoc. What AtHoc is a pop-up system that tells you that there's an emergency going on this campus. The ideal use of this system is by the receptionist or somebody that is always at their desk in an office or in a computer lab, the manager of the computer lab, or in a classroom, the lectern at the classroom front that can be able to tell people, even if they have their cell phones turned off and their video or their laptops turned off, that there's an emergency going on. Investigate with your department if they have AtHoc, and if not, contact us. Throughout campus, you'll see a lot of flat panel and TV sets. We have two major systems on campus, one being Time Warner and the other being Grande. We have the capability during an emergency to flash up that there's an emergency, and then to take people to a specific channel where we can tell them that there's an emergency going on and what information that we can provide them. We are working right now throughout the campus to put emergency announcements on all the flat panel TVs that you see in the entrance of buildings going in. It takes a little while to get there. Right now it's a little cumbersome to do, but we're doing much better in terms of providing information to you via those flat panel TVs. In 65 of our buildings, we have fire alarm panels that have audible speakers throughout the building. We are working right now with the fire marshal and the other entities on campus to make certain that we can access those fire panels to be able to broadcast in a building if there's an emergency. If you live in Jester, or if you know people that live in Jester, each time they do a drill, they use those panels to be able to broadcast throughout the residence halls. If you look at 9/11, one of the great lessons out of 9/11 was people couldn't talk to each other. I'm talking about emergency responders, fire, police, EMS, hazmat, couldn't talk to each other because they all had different radios. In Austin, Texas, we all have the same radio system. The police department, the fire department, the University of Texas, EMS, hazmat, all have the same radio, and we can all get on common channels and talk to each other. A system that has been put in place now for the last several years and has proven great benefit to us to be able to interrelate with all the other agencies that are around the University of Texas that we look at to gain help and gain assistance. I mentioned back on one of the slides talking about emergency planning that you never miss the opportunity to train and rehearse. We have over 2,000 special events on campus each year. One of them, you see depicted on this slide, has 100,000 plus people at every event. Behind this event, this special event, behind most of the other major events and many of the small events, we have an emergency operations center. The final question comes down to what are our responsibilities? In this section, we're going to talk about what do we have to do ourselves. Everybody at the University of Texas, all of us, needs to sign up for text messaging. That's the site to go. We also need to know what to do when the siren is activated, and that is get in a building and wait for further instructions. And we need to know the actions that take place during a shelter in place and during a lockdown. Faculty, TAs, and AIs, you need to understand your role in the classroom. You are the senior university representative. You need to make certain that you take care of the students in your classroom. I would ask each of you, and I know the provost has asked each of you, to add safety and security and emergency evacuation information in your syllabus. Also identify individuals that need assistance to get out of your classroom in the event of an emergency. We ask that you take about 5 minutes at the start of each semester and talk to your class about what do you do if there's going to be an incident in your classroom. How do you get out? How do you take care of each other? And the last thing is know your building manager, because your building manager is the one that's working on the evacuation plan and the communications plan for that building. So know your building manager. Faculty members, TAs, and AIs have a tremendous responsibility to this campus in the event of an emergency. Staff members, know your building manager. Once again, they're the ones that are developing the emergency plans and the evacuation plans. And understand your building or department emergency plan and know what actions to take in the event of a shelter in place or a lockdown. Students and visitors, follow the instructions from authorized personnel. If you're on the streets and the sirens go off, get off the streets and get in the building, and know the actions to take place for a shelter in place or for a lockdown. The question is, what do you do? If there's a shooting or some type of an emergency in your building, get out, stay out, move to safety. If you're caught in the building, you can't get out, call out and give emergency providers information. Call 911. What does the individual look like? Where is he at or she at? What can you do and what can you tell them? But make certain it's vital emergency information. Keep out. And keep out can be two thoughts on keep out. One is if you get out of the building, stay out, keep away from there, don't go back in. But more importantly is block, barricade, lock a door of an office or a room that you're hiding in and make certain that they can't get in. If in fact you do that, then you need to hide out, and that's get yourself behind some type of protected barriers or some type of a protected wall that will protect you from gunshots, and be as quiet as you can. Make certain you silence your cell phone. The last step is the step that most people don't like to talk about, and that's taking out. If there's a group of you, then you got to make the decision. If you're down to the point, just don't lay there and get shot. You got to go after them. Use whatever you have available. Coffee mugs, chairs, doors, anything you can to fight this individual and subdue him. And if you make the commitment to take this action, you've got to make the commitment to follow through and to get the individual on the ground and under control. You need to have joint effort if there's more than one person. Distract the gunman, make certain that someone takes action against the individual. Take them out. There's always a question of what can you do and what can you expect from the police department. When the SWAT team or the police department come in, their focus is to eliminate the threat. They're going to move past people that are wounded. They're not going to be very nice to you because they don't know if you're on the good side or the bad side. Follow their directions. Keep your hands visible to them. Don't expect them to answer a lot of questions. Tell them information. Answer their questions. They're there to try and eliminate the threat. And they'll come back to you after the threat and be nice. But right now, everybody's under a lot of pressure and a lot of tenseness to be able to move forward to get rid of that threat. How do we cope? Most of us will turn to our mental health and counseling centers to try and get people to grief counsel and to help us and advise us in terms of what actions we can take. But I would tell you, when you're in this situation, you've got to cope with it as best you can. Remain silent, remain calm, keep under control, and make certain that you always have a plan in terms of what you're going to do to survive those 5 to 15 minutes. I mentioned several times what to do and know what to do in the event of a lockdown or a shelter in place. Those terms are not synonymous. We don't use those terms at the same time. Shelter in place we use for weather events or perhaps a biological event. And everybody says biological, you're talking about some type of chemical attack. We got a highway called Interstate 35 that runs right through the middle of campus. Every day there's trucks with chemicals on those roads that could end up causing some type of biological or chemical accident that we have to react to. But for a shelter in place, move to the lowest part of the building, get in the center of the hallway, get away from glass, get away from windows, and wait instructions. Lockdown. When we announce that the campus is in lockdown, we're talking about locking down buildings, and we give you 3 different scenarios. If you're outside, move to a building. If you're inside the building where a shooting or some type of emergency is going on, if you can't get out, then follow the 5 outs. And if you're in a building that is next to or adjacent to a facility, lock the doors and stay away from windows. And you can see on this slide, it's a slide that you can go to and you can download from the Emergency Preparedness website, and it will tell you what these emergency terms mean. It also has the 5 outs, make for good posters to print out and put in your classroom or in your office. We've taken a lot of time here to go over the emergency procedures at the University of Texas. We've talked about the history, we've talked about the programs, we've talked about the planning and the plans that we've talked about the communications, and we've talked about responsibility. I hope that this video helps each of you prepare yourself and prepare your office and classes for a safe time at the University of Texas.
Thank you very much for viewing these presentations on the campus safety and security system at the University of Texas. If you have any questions, please contact me at bharkins, Harkins, at austin.utexas.edu. Thank you again for helping us make the campus safe and secure.